I am 74 years old, and this video is not a success story, not motivation, and not an attempt to teach you anything. This is a warning. If you are used to being a good person, if people call you calm, reliable, easy to deal with, you are at risk. Most people don't hear that sentence as a threat, they hear it as a compliment. I did too. For most of my life, I thought those words described the kind of man people respected, the kind of man people trusted, the kind of man who would be safe in the long run. I believed that being calm meant being wise, that being reliable meant being valued, that being easy to deal with meant being loved. I was wrong about all of it. Being calm often means you absorb what others don't want to carry. Being reliable often means you take responsibility no one else wants. Being easy to deal with often means you remove yourself from the equation entirely. None of that guarantees respect. None of that guarantees loyalty. None of that guarantees that anyone will be there when you finally need something in return. I learned this slowly over decades, the way most painful truths are learned. Not through one dramatic moment, not through betrayal or disaster, but through repetition, through patterns, through silence, through the quiet realization that I was always present in other people's lives, but no one was ever truly present in mine. When you are a good person, people rarely test you openly. They don't challenge you, they don't push you directly, they simply assume. They assume you will understand, they assume you will forgive, they assume you will handle it, they assume you will adapt. And every time you do, you confirm something dangerous, that your limits are flexible, negotiable, or non existent. I grew up believing that love was conditional. No one said it directly, but it was obvious. Approval came when I behaved, when I didn't cause trouble, when I didn't raise my voice, when I didn't demand attention. I watched how disappointment entered the room when someone spoke too loudly, asked for too much, or refused to cooperate. I learned very quickly that silence was safer, so I became good at it. That skill followed me everywhere, into school, into friendships, into work, into marriage, into old age. I was always the man who smoothed things over, the one who made situations easier, the one who didn't complicate matter. People liked me for that, they still do, but liking someone is not the same as valuing them, and valuing someone is not the same as knowing them. When people tell you that you are easy to deal with, what they are really saying is that you don't require effort. You don't force them to reflect. You don't disrupt their comfort. You don't ask difficult questions. You don't challenge your unfairness. You make things run smoothly. And smooth systems consume people like you without ever noticing the cost. I spent most of my working life being described as dependable. That word followed me everywhere. Dependable employee, dependable colleague, dependable manager. It sounded like respect. It felt like security. What it really meant was that I was safe to load with responsibility, that I would carry weight without complaining, that I would solve problems quietly and move on. Every workplace has someone like that. The person who stays late, the person who fills the gaps, the person who fixes mistakes they didn't make, the person who keeps things from falling apart. That person rarely gets promoted, they rarely get protected, they rarely get defended because the system doesn't want to lose them where they are. I told myself that effort would eventually be noticed, that loyalty would be remembered, that patience would be rewarded. I told myself that being indispensable would make me irreplaceable. I didn't understand that being indispensable only makes you harder to move, not harder to discard. When the time comes, systems don't hesitate. They adjust. The same pattern repeated outside of work. In friendships, I was the listener, the one people called when they needed to talk, when they needed advice, when they needed support. I knew everyone's problems, their fears, their regrets, their failures. Very few people knew mine, not because I was hiding something dramatic, but because I didn't believe my struggles deserved space. I thought that talking about my own needs would burden others. I thought it would make me less likable, less easy, less calm. So I stayed quiet. I nodded. I empathized. I reassured. And people appreciated me for it. They trusted me. But trust without reciprocity turns into distance, and distance over time turns into absence. I noticed it first in small ways, messages that went unanswered, invitations that stopped coming, conversations that ended quickly when I spoke about myself. At first, I assumed people were busy. I made excuses for them. I always did. Good people are very good at explaining other people's behavior in the most generous way possible. But generosity toward others becomes cruelty toward yourself when it is constant. When you are always understanding, you never get understood. When you are always patient, you teach others that waiting is your default state. When you are always, I want to go back to where this really began because none of this started in adulthood. It never does. People don't wake up at 40 or 50 and suddenly decide to disappear inside themselves. They practice for it slowly, quietly, for years, sometimes from childhood. When I was young, I learned very quickly what kind of behavior was rewarded. Not bravery, not honesty, not curiosity, but compliance, calmness, silence. I saw how adults reacted to children who asked too many questions, who argued, who expressed anger or sadness too openly. Those children were labeled difficult. They were corrected, controlled, sometimes ignored. I did not want to be that child. So I became observant. I watched. I learned when to speak and when not to. I learned how to read the room before opening my mouth. I learned how to adjust myself depending on who was present. I learned that my comfort was less important than the comfort of others. And every time I made that adjustment, I was praised for being mature, for being well behaved, for being easy. No one tells a child that being easy can become a prison. They tell you it makes you good. As I grew older, that pattern solidified. Teachers liked me, employers trusted me. Authority figures rarely worried about me. I didn't cause trouble. I didn't demand attention. I didn't disrupt systems. I fit. And fitting in felt like success. It felt like safety. It felt like control over chaos. But fitting in required constant self monitoring, constant suppression, constant calculation, and over time that becomes automatic. You stop noticing the effort. You stop noticing what you're giving up. You stop noticing that you are living a version of yourself that exists primarily to avoid disapproval. By the time I entered adulthood, I no longer knew the difference between who I was and who I was performing. My instincts had been trained out of me. My anger was buried so deep that I no longer recognized it as anger. It came out as fatigue, as indifference, as distance. I told myself I was calm. In reality, I was numb. I built a life that looked stable from the outside: a career, a family, responsibilities. People respected me. At least I thought they did. What they respected was my predictability, my consistency, my willingness to carry weight without complaint. And predictability is comforting, but it is not intimacy. In my marriage, I played the same role, the reasonable one, the one who didn't escalate, the one who avoided conflict. I thought that was love. I thought love meant sacrifice. I thought love meant choosing harmony over honesty. What I didn't realize was that intimacy cannot survive silence. You cannot be known if you are never fully present. Over time, emotional distance crept in, not because of cruelty or betrayal, but because I was not bringing my full self into the relationship. I avoided difficult conversations. I avoided expressing dissatisfaction. I avoided asserting needs. And the relationship adjusted accordingly. It became calm, functional, predictable, and slowly lifeless. Love doesn't always end in arguments. Sometimes it ends in politeness. The same thing happened with friendships. I was the one people trusted, the one they leaned on, the one they called when things fell apart. But when my own life began to feel heavy, I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to take up space. I had spent so long being the listener that speaking felt unnatural, inconvenient, wrong. So I stayed silent. And silence, over time, becomes a signal. It tells people you don't need much, that you're self sufficient, that you'll be fine, and people believe what you show them. They adapt to the version of you that requires nothing. As years passed, I noticed how often I felt unseen, not misunderstood, unseen, as if I were present but not registered, like furniture in a room, useful, familiar, ignored. That kind of invisibility does something to you. It makes you question your worth, not intellectually, but emotionally. You begin to feel interchangeable, replaceable, optional. I told myself this was just part of aging, that everyone feels this way eventually, that it was normal. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I had felt this way long before I was old. Age just removed the distractions. There was a moment much later in life when something finally broke. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly. I remember sitting alone, thinking about all the years I had spent trying to be good, and realizing that I had never once asked myself what that goodness had cost me. I had measured my life by how useful I had been, not by how fulfilled. That realization was devastating. I saw my past clearly for the first time. The opportunities I avoided because they might upset someone, the conversation I never had because they might create tension, the boundaries I never set because I was afraid of being disliked. None of those decisions felt significant at the time. Together, they